Hey guys, how are you? It's Beachy. This video is going to be pretty different to my usual videos, and it's going to be much more serious, and I completely understand if you choose to skip this one, and there'll be some trigger warnings at the start. These are the trigger warnings, please actually read them and choose if it's a good idea for you to watch this video. So, I'm not too sure where I should start here. I don't think I was ever that happy of a child. I was very lucky to be raised by my grandparents, and they were very, very loving people, and they gave me a lot of things, but my parents, my actual parents, weren't the greatest people ever, and I saw some not so good things. So I remember not being the happiest kid ever, but I still had a lot of things, which was really nice. But around when I was in year 5 or 6, I self-harmed for the first time. I don't really know why I did it. I just remember being really, really sad at the time and not knowing why. Like, there wasn't one reason why I was sad. There wasn't anything big that had happened really in my life. I just remember just not being happy at all. And it's really confusing for a kid because, like, there wasn't anything that I was sad about. I just wasn't happy. And I was cutting soap on my trampoline once in the rain, which is really odd. I know, but I was doing that and then I went inside because I accidentally cut my hand open. And then I was packing up and everything. I had the knife in my hand and I just looked at my wrist and I did it. I didn't even know that was a thing that people did. I just did it. And I kind of felt like I'd be doing it again. So that's the start of that. Then about like later on in that week, I asked for a band-aid from a teacher and she asked why and she like wouldn't leave it alone. Like she kept asking why and she knew that I'd been sad. She gave them to me and then I went to the corner of the room to put them on and she saw and she looked up at me and she looked really sad and she just said bad night and I just kind of shook my head at her and that was it. But I never said that I'd done it, so she didn't really report it. She stayed with me the whole day though. But before that, I remember I had a hair tie that I kept on my wrist and I would flick it constantly, like the first couple months leading up to doing that. I just constantly, like, I don't know what it was about the pain, but yeah. So I was doing that a little bit, and then it was a lot. Like as soon as I woke up, and then when I got to school during class time, then at lunchtime, then during class time again, then on the bus, and then went before I went to bed, just constantly. Um, After struggling with that for quite a long time, also I was really sad at the time, and I didn't want to eat anything. I also was going on and off anxiety and ADHD meds, so that made me not hungry. So I just got into a routine of not eating, and then when I was off of those meds, I was so sad at the time that I didn't care about eating at all, and I didn't want to eat, so I didn't bring food to school anymore, and I wasn't eating, which a couple people picked up on. But I just said I wasn't hungry, and they didn't think much of it, because I was 11 and 12 at the time, which slowly turned into, even when I was hungry, not wanting to eat. I also didn't know what that really was at the time. I wouldn't say I had an eating disorder, but definitely some disordered eating. Those are two different things, by the way. And then when I got into high school, I leaned into that a lot more because I really didn't like the way that my body looked on me, and I just kind of hated it. And I love watching the numbers on the scale drop. I feel like it makes me feel so accomplished in a weird sense. So I got really into that and stopped self-harming as much. And then I told a teacher that, and well, I didn't. She picked up on it a little bit, and then she asked about it, and I told her about it, and she's a really nice woman, and she helps me a lot even now. But when I told her, she encouraged me to stop doing that, so I leaned a bit more into self-harm again. But stopping doing that was really, really hard, and then I went back to it and stopped self-harming again. I went back and forth a lot, and then at one point I started making myself throw up, which wasn't great. I remember just during year 7, like, I was almost every single day that I would get sent to the counselor's office. Like, it was very interesting. I was also skipping a lot of class, and there was some pretty severe bullying about a situation that I don't think I'm very ready to talk about. But I was moved classes a lot. I even ended up in a year 9 class in year 7 because they just like couldn't put me in a classroom, because if I would walk into any of the classrooms in my year in DL, just like a bunch of year 7 boys would scream like, "Get out of my classroom, you!" Like, "Get away from us, you're not allowed in here," and throw things at me. So it wasn't really the best time at school. So all of year 7 I didn't really get any work done, and then I moved on to year 8, where I made a couple friends, but then a lot of drama happened, and then that fell apart. I got into a really serious relationship with a girl for the first time, but that whole time coming to terms with my sexuality was a bit difficult for me. I know being gay is okay. I'm bi, so I like girls and guys, but I know that's okay in my brain, and I'm okay with that for any other person, but for me, just knowing that about myself made me hate myself a lot, which made me struggle with self-harm and my eating disorder again for a while, and then that relationship ended after a couple months, which really sucked, and I kind of didn't care about anything and just kept hurting myself and starving myself. And one day I remember I hadn't eaten all day, and I almost passed out in the middle of class. It wasn't great, but skip to the holidays in year 8, the big holidays around Christmas and everything. I ate whenever I wanted to. When I was hungry, I would eat food. I actually asked for a treadmill for Christmas that year, because I was sick of going on walks, and at nighttime I'd sit up in my bed and do sit-ups constantly, and other things like that. And I wanted to go like running and walking in the middle of the night, and I couldn't leave the house at that time, so I asked for a treadmill and got a pink treadmill to put in my room, which is the dumbest thing ever to ask for Christmas. I have no idea why my grandparents didn't even question that either. But yeah, as I'm saying, after Christmas and after all that, I slowly started to, I don't know, fix myself a little bit. I ate when I was hungry, but then I got back to school and it was stressful. It was intense again, and I didn't like it. So I started starving myself again for a little bit. But then the next holidays that happened, I once again ate when I was hungry. I wasn't walking around like a mad person trying to burn off calories every chance I got. And I wasn't counting the food I was eating and everything. I was doing a lot better, and I hadn't hurt myself in quite a while, like a few months from then. Hadn't drank alcohol, hadn't smoked weed, vaped, any of that, which I did struggle with quite a lot since I was 9 years old, vaping. And then again recently, smoking weed and stuff like that. And drinking throughout this time, but I hadn't done any of that for a while, and I was doing pretty good, and then I got back to school and it was stressful, but I didn't do anything with my ED for a little while, and I was actually doing pretty well. Then some stuff happened in my life really recently, like a month ago or two, maybe a little bit less than that really, but some stuff happened with a guy that I was dating that wasn't great. And then some stuff happened after that wasn't so great. It's really, really messed with me. And I've been having a bit of a hard time again with eating and self-harm and smoking and doing drugs and stuff, but and I don't really feel like I have too many people to talk to right now. The people in my life are busy, or I just don't want to bother them with it. It's the dumbest thing ever. Like, oh, I'm struggling because I'm making myself do these things to myself to hurt myself. It's a bit crazy, but I wanted to make this video, I think, because when I was struggling with this at the worst times ever, when I was little and pretty young, I was looking on the internet everywhere for videos about this. People that were going through the same things that I was. And I don't know, it helped to learn that I wasn't alone, or that I wasn't crazy, that I was doing these things, that I'm not the only one who's done these things before, and that it's actually pretty normal. It shouldn't be, but it is. And if you're struggling with any of these things, please get help. It does get better. It does. I thought that was the dumbest shit ever when people say it to me, but it does. It sometimes it gets better, but then it gets worse again. But it'll always get better if you keep trying. And you don't need to talk to your parents about it if you don't want to yet, or a teacher or someone, but a close friend that you know won't tell anyone else, or just someone you trust. If that's all you want to do, just tell someone in your life. And if you think it's really, really bad, then please go and get help from an adult or from someone else who can do something for you. When I was really young, when I was like 11 and 12 years old doing this, I didn't know that this was a thing that people did, and I was terrified that someone would find out and tell my parents, and I would get whisked away to a mental hospital like they do in the movies, and I thought I was crazy. I thought people were going to think I'm crazy, like that I was stupid, and it was a whole thing, but it's not true, and you'll be okay, and I love you, and you're all amazing, okay?